A mother's scream sliced through the Harlem night, stopping Bumpy Johnson cold. 2 a.m. April 25th, 1964. Bumpy was leaving Small's Paradise, fresh from a heavy sit-down with the union bosses. Strict business, keeping the mob's greedy hands off the sanitation crews. The air was crisp, the streets silent. And Bumpy? He was exhausted. 59 years on the clock, fresh off an 11-year stretch in Alcatraz. His bones screamed he wasn't 30 anymore. But then, a sound shattered the calm. A woman's voice, pure agony, bouncing off the brickwork of 135th Street. This wasn't crying. This was a soul breaking, the specific terror of a mother watching her flesh and blood dragged into the abyss. Your average wise guy keeps walking. Not our beef. Not our business. No territory at stake. No envelope to collect. Just another kid getting crushed by the machine. Same old story since before Bumpy took his first breath. But Bumpy Johnson? He wasn't your average wise guy. He stopped, pivoted. Ruth Robinson stood alone outside the 28th precinct, 42 years old. Her Sunday best drenched in cold rain and hot tears. A housekeeper working herself to the bone. Her hands trembled violently, crushing a piece of paper. A warrant. Bumpy moved in slow, calculated. In Harlem, you don't sneak up on grief. That's how you get hurt. Or worse. Ma'am? Bumpy's voice was low, respectful. You holding up? Ruth raised her head, eyes swollen shut. No recognition yet. Then she clocked the fedora, the tailored wool, the posture of a king, a man who owned every inch of pavement beneath his shoes. You're Bumpy Johnson. Yes, ma'am. The strength left her legs. She crumbled against the brick, sliding down to the unforgiving concrete. They're taking my boy, she gasped. They're gonna execute my Marcus for a lie. Bumpy lowered himself, ignoring the fire in his joints. Talk to me. What happened? And Ruth Robinson spun a tale that would make Bumpy Johnson bet his entire empire. Her son, Marcus Robinson Jr., 19, but his mind pure, innocent, childlike. Back then, folks said he was slow, just walking home from bagging groceries in Brooklyn. 2 nights back, 2 white detectives snatched him off the corner, claimed a white woman, Sarah Bennett, got butchered in Manhattan. 57 stab wounds. Upper East Side. Her roommate, Lisa Carter, dead too. Papers dubbed it the career girl murders. Sensational. Bloody. The city screamed for blood. The cops? They just needed a body to hang it on. And Marcus? Black. Broke. No alibi. The perfect lamb for the slaughter. 22 hours in the box. Starved. Parched. No counsel. They threatened to kill his mother. Shoved gruesome crime scene photos in his face. Tell us how you did it, they screamed. Marcus was terrified, confused. He signed the paper just to make it stop. The kid couldn't even read his own death warrant. Locked up. No bail. 2 counts of murder won. The district attorney wants the chair. But Marcus wasn't even in Manhattan. Ruth's voice cracked. He was in Brooklyn. His boss saw him. His boys saw him. But nobody listens. He's black. They're white. Case closed. Bumpy took it all in, stone-faced. Silence hung heavy in the air. Then he spoke the words that would shift the tides. Ma'am, give me 2 weeks. If the boy's innocent, I'll walk him out. And if this was a setup, they're gonna pray they never met me. Ruth stared, bewildered. Why? You don't know us. Bumpy stood tall, knees popping like pistol fire. Because I know the cold taste of steel bars and silence. I rotted in Alcatraz for 11 long years. Half the guys in that cage? Innocent. The only difference between them and your boy is that the big shots didn't care enough to stop the bleeding. He slid a crisp $100 bill into Ruth's palm. A down payment on justice. Go home. Rest your eyes, he ordered. I'll handle the rest, she whispered. But how? I got methods. And just like that, Bumpy Johnson faded into the Harlem shadows like smoke. Ruth Robinson didn't know the weight of that handshake. Nobody did. Bumpy had just signed a contract in blood. that declared open season on the NYPD, the Genovese crime family, and every suit in the Manhattan D.A.'s office. Just the kind of heat Bumpy lived for. Dawn broke. Bumpy convened the council in the back room of a joint on Lenox Avenue, his throne room. 3 heads at the table. First up, Frank Lucas, the young wolf. Frank was 34, eyes full of ambition, starving for a piece of the crown. He was the legs. Then there was Nat Pettigrew, ex-badge, kicked off the force because he wouldn't take a dirty nickel. He knew the belly of the beast. Finally, Madame Stephanie St. Clair, the numbers queen, a living legend. She was 70, but her web was spun tight. Judges, mouthpieces, ink slingers. If a whisper happened in Harlem, it reached Queenie's ear. Bumpy put the cards on the table. Marcus ain't the killer, but someone's rigging the game to say he is. I want the architect. Frank cut in. Boss, respectfully, why step in? This ain't our war. The temperature in the room dropped. Frank, when one of ours gets crushed by the machine, it's strict business. Today, it's the Robinson kid. Tomorrow, it's you. It's me. The law don't care about truth. It just needs a body to hang. Frank dipped his head. Lesson learned. Stephanie leaned in, eyes sharp. Name your price, Bumpy. 3 favors, he said. 1, give me the real butcher. 2, give me the dirty badges covering his tracks. 3, prove the kid was ghosts in Manhattan that day. Nat let out a low whistle. That's a mountain to climb. Case is closed tight. They ain't cracking the seal for a polite request. Then we don't ask, Bumpy growled. Frank hit the pavement running. The apartment was locked down, taped off, but the street talks. He worked the doorman, the neighbors, the carriers, every soul who breathed air in that building the day the Bennett and Carter girls got hit. And he struck gold. Anton, the Polish doorman, recalled a face, a white male exiting the scene, right at the killing hour. The guy was drenched in crimson, sharp suit, ruined, hopped into a black Cadillac and peeled off. You sing to the cops? Frank asked. Anton shook his head. They didn't ask. They only wanted to know if I saw a brother. Frank's blood cooked, but his face stayed stone. Give me a face, Frank demanded. Anton didn't hesitate. Tall, dark hair, nasty scar on the left cheek. Late 30s, Frank took the intel back to the boss. While Frank worked the street, Nat Pettigrew worked the wires. He dug up dirt that would make a statue shiver. The lead detective on the case was Frank Sullivan. A badge so dirty, flies wouldn't land on it. Genovese property. Taking envelopes to look at the sky while the mob did work. But here's the kicker. Sullivan had a running mate. Johnny Scar Mancini, not a cop. A junkie thief. With a scar on his left cheek. Nat kept digging until he hit bedrock. Johnny Mancini had been pinched 3 times in the last year alone for burglary. And every single time, Detective Sullivan had pulled the strings to cut him loose. Sullivan's keeping this guy under his wing, Nat told Bumpy. And I'd bet my life Mancini is the butcher who killed those women. Bumpy's jaw set like granite. So Sullivan framed Marcus Robinson just to shield his own rat. That's how it looks. Then we find Johnny Mancini. But locating a ghost wasn't simple. The rat had gone to ground, but Frank Lucas had eyes on every street corner, and junkies always sing for a fix. It took 3 long days, but Frank tracked Mancini to a filthy shooting gallery down in the Lower East Side. Mancini was floating on a cloud, stoned out of his gourd. Frank dragged him into the shadows of a back alley. Bumpy was waiting there like the Grim Reaper. "Johnny Mancini," he said, his voice cold as ice. Mancini blinked. His eyes struggled to focus. Who are you?" "I'm the man giving you the only choice you have left. You spill the truth about Sarah Bennett and Lisa Carter, or I feed you to the wolves who want your head on a platter." Mancini broke down sobbing. "I didn't mean to clip 'em. I was just there to clean the place out, but they woke up screaming. I panicked." "You panicked, so you stabbed them 57 times? I was flying high. I don't remember half of it." Sullivan swore he'd cover for me if I kept my mouth shut. Bumpy produced a tape recorder from his coat. "Say that again. Every ugly detail." For 45 minutes, Johnny Mancini sang like a canary, spilling exactly how he cracked that apartment. He described the slaughter in a drug-fueled haze and how Detective Sullivan swept the blood under the rug, all by pinning it on Marcus Robinson. When the tape clicked off, Bumpy held the smoking gun, but there was a snag. A simple tape wouldn't cut it on its own. The courts would scream coercion. He needed backup proof. That's when the Queen, Stephanie St. Clair, played her hand. She pulled strings in the halls of justice and found a shark willing to take Marcus Robinson's case for free. The man's name was David Coleman, a young blood, full of fire and ideals, fresh out of Columbia Law School. Coleman listened to the recording. His eyes widened. "This is dynamite," he said, "but we need more ammo. We need witnesses to prove Marcus was miles away." "I'm already handling it," Bumpy replied calmly. Frank Lucas headed back to the streets of Brooklyn. He tracked down Marcus's boss at the grocery store, a man named Mr. Park. He confirmed Marcus had been sweating on the clock all day long, specifically on April 23rd, the day of the hit. "Why didn't you go to the cops?" Frank pressed. Mr. Park lowered his gaze. "They never asked. And look at me. I'm Korean. Who would believe a word I say?" Frank also rounded up 3 of Marcus's pals who were with him that night. Every single one backed Marcus's story. Bumpy finally held a full deck. The confession, the ironclad alibi, and the smoking gun proving the badge was dirty. On May 10th, 1964, Bumpy Johnson marched into the Manhattan District Attorney's office with David Coleman by his side. Armed with the tape and the sworn affidavits, the district attorney played the recording. The blood drained from his face. "Where the hell did you get this?" "That ain't your concern," Bumpy said flatly. "What matters is you got an innocent kid sitting on death row while the real butcher walks the streets. All because one of your detectives is on the take." The DA stared Bumpy down, silence filling the room. Then he grabbed the receiver. "Get me Detective Sullivan, right now." Marcus Robinson walked free on May 15th, 1964. Charges dropped. Johnny Scar Mancini was thrown in chains and finally nailed for the murders. But Detective Frank Sullivan? He was never charged. Too many friends in ivory towers. Instead, he was quietly forced to hand in his badge. Outside the courthouse, Ruth Robinson threw her arms around Bumpy Johnson, sobbing into his chest. "You saved my boy's life." Bumpy just offered a stoic nod. "That's what we do in Harlem, ma'am. We protect our own." Marcus Robinson lived a quiet life after the storm, but he never forgot the debt he owed Bumpy Johnson. He named his firstborn son Ellsworth, the name of the man who gave him back his life, paying respects to the boss who gave him a second shot. Harlem? They kept that memory etched in stone. The business with Marcus Robinson didn't make the morning papers. It became a legend whispered on the avenue. They don't print headlines about wise guys doing the right thing. But on the corners, in the back of the barber shops, even in the pews, the word spread like wildfire. How Bumpy Johnson stepped up to save an innocent kid. It exposed a truth the system wanted buried deep. Sometimes, a man with a rap sheet has more honor than a man with a badge. That real justice isn't served in a courtroom. It's served right here, on the concrete. Years down the line, the press asked Bumpy about the boy. He kept his mouth shut, face like ice. He just adjusted his suit and said, "I did what was necessary, what any man of principle would have done." But the players who knew the score understood. That spring of 1964, Bumpy didn't just save a life. He reminded the neighborhood who was really watching over them. Even when the system crashed and burned, when the suits, the police, and the politicians turned their backs on the people, one man stood tall in the wreckage. And that man was Bumpy Johnson, the true Godfather of Harlem. If you respect the code, hit that subscribe button and make your mark on the like. Pass this video to someone who needs a lesson in loyalty. And speak your piece in the comments below. Ever held the line when everyone else folded? Let me hear it. And keep your eyes open. Turn on those notifications for more heavy tales from the history books. The legends they don't teach you in school.